Most 7-day itineraries promise you something Patagonia cannot honestly deliver: certainty about which day you'll do which thing. Day 3, sunrise hike to the towers. Day 5, full day glacier trek. It reads well on a page, and it's exactly the kind of itinerary that gets wrecked by Patagonian weather, because this is a region where conditions can swing through 4 seasons in a single day, where wind that's calm at dawn can be gusting past 100 kilometers an hour by noon, where the one clear viewpoint morning in a 5-day stretch might land on what your printed itinerary called transfer day. Promising a fixed activity to a fixed date here isn't planning. It's gambling with the part of the trip you actually came for. So this itinerary works differently. Instead of locking activities to days, it gives you a base structure where you sleep, in what order, for how long, and a clear list of priorities within each base, and it leaves the actual decision of what today is for to be made each morning by you, standing outside looking at the sky. This is not a looser version of planning. It's the only version of planning that actually respects how Patagonia works. 7 days is enough to do this properly, as long as you stop trying to script it in advance and start treating it as a framework with room to breathe. Here's how the week is built. The structure rests on 2 bases, not a long chain of one-night stops, because Patagonia punishes itineraries that move constantly and rewards ones that settle in and wait for the right window. 4 nights based around Torres del Paine on the Chilean side, then 3 nights based around El Chalten on the Argentine side, or the reverse, depending on your flights. Both are the hiking capitals of their respective countries. Both give you a concentrated base from which the days can flex, and the few hours it takes to transfer between them, including the border crossing, becomes one of your built-in flexible days rather than a rushed transit squeezed between fixed activities. Day 1, regardless of which base you start at, is never a hiking day, and this isn't caution for its own sake, it's strategy. You're arriving after a long journey, likely with a flight into El Caliphate or Punta Arenas followed by a multi-hour transfer, and your body and your schedule both need slack on arrival day in case of delays. Use it to settle into the lodge or town, do a short, easy walk near your accommodation if the legs want movement, and, critically, start reading the weather. Look at the multi-day forecast with genuinely fresh eyes, because in Patagonia the forecast for tomorrow is far more trustworthy than the forecast was 3 weeks ago when you were planning from home. This first evening is when the real itinerary begins to take shape, not the one you wrote months in advance. With 4 days centered on Torres del Paine, here is the priority list in the order it should generally be tackled, with the explicit understanding that the order bends to the sky, not the calendar. The top priority, the one thing in the entire week most worth protecting, is the full-day hike to the base of the towers, the Torres del Paine viewpoint itself, the postcard image of 3 granite spires the entire park is named for. This is a demanding day, around 8 to 10 hours round trip, finishing with a steep boulder scramble to a glacial lake with the towers rising directly above it, and it is an experience that depends entirely on visibility. Cloud-wrapped towers are a real and common disappointment, so this hike does not get assigned to day 2 in advance. It gets assigned to whichever morning in your 4-day window has the clearest forecast, and if the first morning looks promising, you take it immediately rather than saving it for later in case the weather doesn't hold. Patagonia rewards travelers who seize a good window the moment it appears, and punishes the ones who assume tomorrow will be just as good. The second priority is the French Valley, a full-day hike into the park's interior with views of hanging glaciers and an amphitheater of peaks on both sides, slightly less weather-dependent than the tower's hike, since much of it moves through forest and valley rather than fully exposed high terrain, which makes it a sensible choice for a day with SOSO but not terrible conditions. The kind of day you don't want to waste on the towers, but don't want to waste entirely either. The third priority is the boat trip to Grey Glacier, which can be done as a shorter, lower-effort day. A catamaran crossing Grey Lake past floating icebergs to the face of the glacier itself, making it the natural choice for a day when your legs need a break from serious elevation, but you don't want to lose a day to the weather entirely, since the glacier viewing works reasonably well even under flatter light. And the fourth, genuinely flexible slot is reserved for whichever of the above didn't get the conditions it deserved the first time, or for simply exploring closer to your lodge, shorter walks around Lake Piho, wildlife watching for guanaco, and possibly puma in the park's grasslands, or simply resting. Because a week of demanding hiking at the mercy of strong wind is genuinely taxing, and a deliberate slow day is not a wasted one. This is the entire logic of the Torres del Paine half of the trip. 4 days, 3 real priorities, and the explicit instruction to let this morning sky choose which priority gets which day, rather than deciding it from your couch months in advance. The crossing to El Chalten takes you out of Chile and into Argentina, generally via Puerto Natales and a border crossing, then onto El Caliphate before the final stretch to El Chalten itself. A transfer that eats most of a day on its own, which is exactly why it belongs in the itinerary as its own deliberate day rather than something you try to compress around a morning hike. Use this travel day as it is. Don't fight it. In El Chalten, the priority structure shifts because the terrain and the hiking style here are different. Long, well-marked trails radiating directly out of town rather than requiring transport into a park each morning, which actually makes El Chalten slightly more forgiving of weather-based improvisation, since you can start walking from your accommodation and turn back at any point if conditions sour. The top priority here is the hike to Laguna de los Tres, the trail that ends beneath Mount Fitzroy's dramatic granite spire reflected in a glacial lake, Patagonia's other iconic image, and like the Towers hike in Chile, entirely dependent on the peak being visible rather than buried in cloud, since Fitzroy is notorious for generating its own weather and hiding for days at a time. Same rule applies. Take the clearest morning you get, as early as you can manage it, because the cloud that wraps the peak by midday on a good day can make the difference between the photo you came for and a long walk to nothing. The second priority is Laguna Torre, a somewhat gentler hike to the base of Cerro Torre, a different and equally striking spire, and a sensible alternate for a day with decent but not perfect conditions, since the approach trail itself, through forest and along a glacial river, is rewarding independent of whether the peak fully reveals itself at the end. And the buffer day in El Chalten is for either repeating whichever hike got cheated by weather, for one of the shorter trails around town if your legs are tired, or simply for sitting in one of the town's cafes watching the mountain and letting the trip's most demanding stretch settle before you fly home. What this 7-day structure deliberately avoids is the false promise of a typical itinerary, the illusion that Patagonia can be scripted the way Tuscany or Bangkok can be scripted, where the weather is a background detail rather than the main character in deciding your day. 2 bases, clear priorities at each, 1 built-in flexible day per base, and the explicit instruction to make the call each morning rather than the night you booked the trip. Wake up, check the sky and the forecast, and choose from your own short list rather than following someone else's script written from a desk thousands of kilometers away and months in advance. Do it this way, and 7 days in Patagonia gives you both signature hikes in something close to their best conditions, a buffer that absorbs the inevitable bad weather morning without wrecking the whole week, and the kind of trip that the rigid, day-by-day version of this itinerary simply cannot promise, no matter how good it looks on the page before you land. The region was never going to follow your calendar. The only itinerary that actually works here is the one built to follow the region instead. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, smash that like button and subscribe to When to Travel. We're all about helping you make smarter travel decisions. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And hey, if you think your friends need this, share it. Comment below with your next destination or your biggest travel question. I'm reading all of them. Let's go.